Cool.
Hello, hello, hello.
Whew, how are you doing?
Woo! That's a loaded minefield today. I
Yes.
am well, my friend. I am coming in, streaming in today from the ancestral land of the Comanche and the Apache, which is a little south of Dallas, was their ancestral hunting grounds, in a place now called Lancaster, Texas, and it is where I grew up. So I am caregiving this week and supporting my mom with my dad, who's been having some health issues, and also hanging out with my adorable but loud 3-year-old nibblings. What
Yes,
about
yeah.
you?
Good, good. I was looking forward to seeing my 3-year-old, my goddaughter, and she was not invited to dinner because of everything, because of the 3-year-oldness. So yes, I hear you and whew,
Ooh, yeah,
running
it's not
fast,
terrible twos. Like people talk
right?
about terrible twos. It's those threes that are
Those
just
threes.
whoa, right? My lighting is a
Yes.
little funky today. Sorry, y'all, if you are watching. I'm in a new location, so it's a
I I love you
little
for who
funky.
you are, despite what
Thank
the
you.
light bulbs look like,
Thank
okay?
you.
It's not conditional to lighting.
I love it. Should we do our official intro and then kick off this conversation, my friend?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right,
let's
let's do
do
it.
it. Who do I have it? This is crazy. I literally just pulled it up. 2 seconds. Here we go. Yes, okay. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shalo Glow LLC, a natural shea butter company. I am a champion for your natural care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all, I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, an Amazon best-selling published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade your self and community care.
And together we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness.
Right. And we like to get together every week with special guests and sometimes with ourselves because like on this wrap up today it's us for weekly intentional conversations about how to be wise in business relationships and wellness. How do we do it all in the midst of
Yes.
caregiving, in the midst of peopling, in the midst of our jobs and our families and the holidays? Because
Mm,
I see behind you, for those that are
yes.
listening, not watching, you got your Christmas tree up.
Yes, I love the lights. They always bring so much joy. So after
Right?
Thanksgiving, I like to give the holidays the space, right? We know that
Mhm.
we like to buy stuff. So immediately it starts getting cold, all the Christmas stuff goes up because that
Right.
is one of the bigger grossing holidays, right? But I like to give space to each one. But yes, during this time, we go ahead and put up the lights for some joy.
Right. And then will you
Yeah.
decorate after Thanksgiving? Is that what happens?
Mm-mm, we have little bulbs on here.
Oh,
They're
you already
about
got it on there.
yeah, they're
Okay.
like
Cute.
the same color of the lights, so
I
it's
see them now that you
minimalist,
say
but
that. All right. I
yeah,
love it. I
yeah,
love it. Yeah. Well,
but
I love
yeah.
that it brings you joy.
Mhm.
And I would invite our listeners and even ourselves today to just take a moment and pause and think about something that brings us joy. No.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but the energy's been kind of wild between the full moon, the lunar eclipse, the election yesterday,
Mhm.
and
The
just like,
diesel shortage that's supposed to be going on, I read about that. I said, "Oh, people are gonna be tight."
right?
Mhm.
Just so much. I was really bummed with the election results coming out of Georgia. I wasn't there. I'm traveling right now, as I
Yeah.
said, but I it was weird not to be there on
Mhm.
election night. I was bummed about our gal Stacey Abrams,
Yeah.
and who we quote in our book, Women Connected Wisdom, because she's a wise woman, and I'm bummed that she lost the race, and so proud of all her work in
Yes.
our state and what she does to uplift people's voices, and just
Yeah.
grateful.
Yeah.
And y'all, we're heading to a runoff for the Senate seat. So we're going to be talking to you about voting because that's, I believe it's going to be January 6th.
That's
But
what I was about to ask you.
yeah, pretty sure it's
Okay.
January 6th. But we'll
Okay.
confirm that as we get closer. So
Yeah. Yeah. And this season has been amazing. There's been so much going on around us, so much that we're working on. So when we talk about how do you make sure that all of that's good, for me, that season, it's been I wonder what some of my wisdom and actions are. I can go back and look, but for me, it's been breathing, right? I know that was
Right?
somewhere on the list.
Right?
Holding the boundaries and being connected. Like the conference was so good, and I need to go back and listen to the two spiritual the replays since I had to go to work. But it was so good, and I'm so excited to hear everything everybody has to say once they listen to their replays.
Right? Yeah, it was amazing. And I was looking back, we started this season that we're wrapping up today. We started back in September.
Mhm.
So this is a season that went through most of September, October, and now here we are in November.
Mhm.
And I just think about as the season itself is changing, like we're changing our season here. But
Yeah.
yeah, since in the last season is when we had the book launch, right
Yeah.
before we had the book launch, and
Mhm.
then we had the conference. So thank
Yeah.
you to everybody who's been with us through that time and who's
Yes.
listening live, and we're so grateful. But let's talk about some of the guests we have and also the resources as we're
Mhm.
going. I mean, we're here at holiday season. It's
Yeah,
right
we are.
around the corner. So let's talk about wellness and how do we what are some things our listeners use already for
Mhm.
wellness? If you're
Mhm.
listening, give us a comment and we'll bring you into this conversation.
Yeah.
Or what we've been talking about the last year and a half. Like
Mhm.
what are some things that bubble up for you, Shannon, that you're like, "Oh, you remember this guest? I'm
Yeah.
gonna use that."
Yeah. And so two things, right? One, you said, what do our listeners use already? Before we see who comments and what they say, we know that people sleep, right? Even if you have
Right?
insomnia, hopefully you're sleeping at least a little bit. And
Right.
so when you said that, it reminded me of um, Dr. Dalton-Smith last week, Saundra Dalton-Smith, and how she was talking about sacred rest.
Oh
So
my
is
gosh.
sleep what you need, or do you need the creative rest? Do you need the sensory rest? I said that makes a lot of sense.
Can I tell you that episode stuck with me? Like, I'm still thinking about last week's episode. So if
Yeah.
you are listening to this one and you didn't get a chance to listen to last week's episode,
Mhm.
y'all go check it out.
Really?
Her The thing that stuck out with me about the creative rest
Mhm.
was when you've been producing, like we have, like the books, the conference, things like that.
Yeah.
What brings you creative rest? And it was when I had the epiphany of, oh, me watching these reality TV shows about people creating stuff like baking shows or, the glass blowing shows or even the makeup shows.
Yeah.
That brings me creative rest, like
Yeah.
looking at other people's artwork and the beauty of that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
she said nature, right? Like natural nature. It was
Oh.
um it was interesting when you said that because I thought you were gonna talk about So You Think You Can Dance. And then when you mentioned the shows, you mentioned all these shows that I watch, right? And I used to watch So You Think You Can Dance, but again, now I listen to or now I watch the bad auditions. Um
Right.
But yeah, I've also been thinking about that on the intellectual wellness side too, though, right? Doing all these salary positions this year, building the businesses, thinking about things as an entrepreneur, as a higher level manager in a restaurant, right? How do you balance your intake of information and actually applying it? For me, I have to take that rest, and I think that's part of the creative rest too. And that's how I had thought about it, but not in that category before.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna sit with that episode for longer, and I wanna sit with some of the things she taught us. And, oh, I forgot to tell you because I
What?
took it while we were on air last week
The
about the
quiz.
quiz. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Okay,
Hmm.
y'all. So I did the quiz that she gave us online, and I'm gonna pull it up and tell y'all because it was fascinating. This is a follow-up from last week.
Yes.
So let me pull it up in the REST quiz. And
Mhm.
we will put this in our show notes again because it was fascinating. And, I was, of course, doing it while we were talking, but I was like, here we go. So she sent it the next day, first of all. They came right away. And then it said quiz results for the REST quiz test. And this is what she said. Um, she gave us the different types of rest: the physical, the chance to use the body in restorative ways to decrease muscle tension, reduce headaches, and promote higher quality sleep. Mental rest is the ability to quiet cerebral chatter and focus on the things that matter. The spiritual rest is the capacity to experience God in all things and recline in the knowledge of the holy. Ooh, isn't that lovely? recline in the knowledge of the holy. Emotional, the freedom to authentically express feelings and eliminate people pleasing behaviors. Yes. Social, the wisdom to recognize relationships that revive from the ones that exhaust and how to limit exposure to toxic people. Sensory rest is the opportunity to downgrade the endless onslaught of sensory input received from electronics, fragrances, and background noise. And then the creative rest, which is the one that popped for both of us, the experience of allowing beauty to inspire awe and liberate wonder. So then she gave the personal rest deficit assessment results. And so, and they came in scores. What it said was like if you score a 16 to 25, you are experiencing rest in this area, but would thrive with some more. If you, oh, wait, let me back up. If you score a 0 to 15, you're getting adequate rest in this area. And then the 16 is 25, you thrive with more. 26 to 35, you're feeling the effects or the lack of rest and need a change. And if you score greater than 35, your life is negatively affected by your lack of rest in the area. Are you ready? Do we need a drum roll? So, I said I was affirmed by our conversation last week because I felt
Yeah.
like we have been, we practice what we preach and we really do our best to do our practices. So I didn't have any over 35. Whoop,
Good.
whoop.
Good job.
I had one that was in the 26 to 35 range of you're
Okay.
feeling the effects of your lack of rest. And that was the
Mhm,
physical rest. Because remember,
mhm,
I was sleep deprived
mhm,
last week.
yes.
And then the rest, let's see. The most of them were you are getting adequate rest, but you would thrive with more. Was where most of them. So
Mhm,
the one that I was absolutely doing the best in was my spiritual rest score. That
good.
I did not. I was good. Everything else I could use some more, but yeah, it was
I'll
very
take it.
affirming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that is my score to take.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
think that, like, as a foundation that I mean, and I'll share my story too. We talk about that, right? How my spiritual wellness and me operating from a place of validation instead of for validation and trusting that everything works for my good is what's kept me focused and steady in all of this stuff. If it was not for that, then the physical stress and the pull and all this stuff, it's why do it. And then I feel like that's where a lot of the anxiousness and anxiety comes from people when they see all the energy that they're putting in and the money they have left over. What is it for? Where is the country going? And then here goes this spiral that we start doing. So, one, good job on your scores and making sure that you're rested. Thank you for taking care of yourself.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and I also loved how she identified the places that I mean, she was
The
really subtle
deficit.
about saying it, but, like,
Hmm.
where do you wanna focus on, right? And
Mm,
definitely the physical one is the most right now with lack of sleep. So
yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. And again, ladies, like for me, it's if we don't work a certain way, that's not going to change, right? If inflation is increasing prices and the pay rate is a certain amount and you need X amount to live and pay for your expenses and then thrive above that, then that means out of 168 hours, you might be tired if you have 3.5 of beauty labor and unpaid home labor, which is the second resource I was going to mention, Laurel Ann Stark's resource with the Resurgio app and the mental and emotional well-being of entrepreneurs. This is how we feel and this is why. It's not just us making it up or complaining about it. It's this is what it takes to really get all this stuff done. And it's either going to be our time or somebody else's. So that's why I'm so excited for our community that we're about to start and everything we have coming for next year so we can get those other things to the right levels of rest.
Right? Laurel Lynn Stark was such a treat to have her both as a guest last season
Yeah.
and then as a speaker at the conference.
It was so good.
Her those statistics were incredible. And so y'all will be using some of those in our upcoming social media. So be on the lookout for them because she was just top notch. And if you didn't listen to our episode this season, you want to go back and catch it because powerful work. And she
Yeah.
also gave all our listeners a free month of her Resurgio app. We always are we saying that right? Resurgio?
And so she said that we could choose how to say it, right? I say Resurgio.
Okay.
What do you say?
I think that's right. I always doubt myself right when I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
am I saying it right?"
Trust
Um,
yourself.
so yeah, but she gave our listeners a free month off of that app, which was so generous. And y'all check it out. It's cool. It's for
Yeah.
executive women, entrepreneurial women, and executive women. I think it would work great for too. But she's got masterminds in there. She's got just support and help, and just
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that it's based on research. Again, this is not just us saying, oh, well, women need support, so let's put together a group. No, we're affected by physical things, all of these different factors that affect us on top of the work stress, on top of being an entrepreneur, which is already a feat in itself. So, yeah, she has her research done and her team that's helped her make sure that the system is actually doing what it's supposed to. That's something I love about what she does too.
Well, and the statistic that I'm still sitting with that she shared was it was like 7 out of 10 entrepreneurial women are affected by mental illness. That's a big statistic.
Hmm.
And it's something when we think about emotional and mental wellness that we need to be paying attention to. And what are the resources we need to help support our mental health and mental wellness?
Absolutely. And for me, what it points to is why is that, right? Because of are we able to use our voice? How can we articulate when we need help and what's going on, right? So that's why I love what we're doing because I feel like it answers so many of those questions, right? You can have the community, you can have the, hey, I need help automating my social media. I don't know what the caption should be, and you can have a Cecile who's written for all these different people, and she can help you, and not that she's done that for our group because we have other people that do that, but she could if we needed her to, and that's where some of the rest can come from, sharing the stories like, yeah, I said I wasn't going to do that, didn't happen. This is what happened instead. And instead of feeling like you're behind and now beating yourself up and here goes another snowball, it's okay, I just had to readjust my expectations, look at the context of the situation I'm in, and then give myself some grace and try again tomorrow. Hmm.
I love that part about giving yourself grace, and,
Yeah.
that makes me think of Dr. Cynthia Phelps, who
Hmm.
came on and talked fan of a show, we're a fan of hers, with InnerAlly, and
Yeah.
came and talked about self-forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
Came and talked about how do we soothe our souls, and I think
Mm.
that's an especially important thing for us to look at as we're going to holidays, as we are, going into the winter months, which can be really hard for some people. That
Yeah.
if they're not getting out in the sunshine or getting out and socializing for their social wellness, I think it can be a challenge. So I
Yeah.
know that Dr. Phelps has an upcoming workshop on forgiveness that we'll put a
Mhm.
self forgiveness that we will put a link in our show notes because she's also offering a Women Connect in Wisdom discount. So we'll make sure and
Ooh.
give you that code so you
Mm.
can have that and sign up because it's either starting in December or January, but we'll put a link to it so you can find out.
I think it might be January if I remember what she said correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But such a
Yeah.
great resource, right? And I had, after she spoke at the conference, I had a friend call and was talking about self forgiveness. And I was like, hey, did you listen to that? Did you listen to the workshop from Dr. Phelps? She's like, yeah, I did. And I was like, take her class. Like, that's what Women Connecting Wisdom is all about. Like,
Yeah.
if it sparks something in you that you're like, okay, I want to explore this further or I want to go deeper, we have the folks that you can do that with, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes me think of, Kate Arms too, right? Is hold on, let me make it is Arms is her last name, right?
Yep. Kate
Okay,
Arms from
um,
Canada. She's on psychological safety in the workplace.
exactly. Yep,
Yep.
and that is so important. I was telling my ally, I said, "I talked about you in the podcast and how you help me in these situations." Um, but yeah, it's important to do that for yourself, and that's a reason why I've stayed connected. When all this stuff was going on right before COVID, during COVID, I said, "You know what? I'm just gonna take some time for myself. I'm gonna stop talking to so many people. I'm over it." And I had this group and I had church and I had Neor, my network marketing group I was part of. And I said, I need to step back. I stepped back from some positions, but I did not completely disconnect. I figured that wouldn't be the healthy decision. That might cause some other things to happen, right? And I'm so glad that I did not do that, because as I started building the businesses, as we started working on all this other stuff, the right people were there in the right way. And that's what we need. That's why we need community. It's not just a village raises a child. You still need a village and a team and all this other stuff.
You know what I'm thinking about? What bubbles up for me when you talk about that is,
Mm,
here we are rapidly approaching the end of the year. And I know we do it with Women Connecting Wisdom and the work we do
yeah.
together, but really taking a look at what's working in our lives right now. Like, what
Mm,
is working? And give gratitude and affirmations for what's working. And then do a little, I call it a self audit, right? I tend to do them on my birthdays and I tend to do them at the end of the year. And I'm lucky because I'm a summer birthday. So it is, I do them twice a year. I do it
yeah.
at the end of June and I do it at the end of December.
When is your
But
birthday again?
June 22nd.
June
So
22nd. Okay.
June 22nd, yeah. And so I do an audit then and then at the end of the year. So I'm already starting to think like, what's really working? And then what are
Yeah.
things I might want to change?
Mhm.
And it could be little changes. It doesn't have to be drastic changes. But I was thinking about I think all our guests touched on it a little bit this season about if folks or relationships or things aren't working for you, how do we change that or how do we and so I think I know for me and my schedule and I wouldn't be shocked if yours too because I know how busy yours is and most of our
Yeah.
listeners, right? I
Yeah.
think one of the first incremental steps is taking a pause and listening, like
Mm.
listening to our bodies and listening to ourselves and asking the question, what's working? Because if we're so busy that we can't even ask that question, we definitely can't affect change, right?
So good. And then I think it's also what's working, and maybe not every time, but a question I realized it was really important to ask is, what do I want? Like if you're looking at your week schedule and um overwhelmed by the day, and you're like, is what I have on this list working for me? Well, what do you need that day to look like? Is it rest, or is it, no, I need to. The other night I stayed up till about 5 o'clock in the morning doing stuff. Okay, I was up, and I know we're supposed to get rest. I was thinking about Saundra. I said, you know what, I'm gonna get this done because it's been on my mind. We need to get this stuff done. But that's
That
what made
gave
me
you
feel
mental
better.
rest. That gave
Exactly,
you mental
exactly.
rest. So
Yeah,
I like to you saying that like you stay up late. I like to get up
yeah.
early. So
Hmm.
a couple and I used to get up way earlier than I do right now cuz heading into winter I like to snooze a little bit. But I have found what really works for my rhythm is if I get up once a week super early and literally roll over into my office chair. I mean, I go across the hall, but you know what I mean. That I start the day with work and knock out 2 or 3 extra hours of work before the regular. There, that gives me, it's a little bit diving into the physical rest but deficit, but it gives me a mental rest boost because then, I knock some things off and I really enjoy those really quiet moments.
I like that. And I like it because straight to work, I'm taking notes. So I like it because I don't like to fight with myself, right? On staying in position, on staying in a relationship. If I have to argue with myself, I'm looking at that, right? And so part of my discipline, as I've worked on my discipline and consistency and diligence over the past few years, it's no, do your stuff first. Pour into yourself first. Don't go to these other people before you take your pour it. So it's a no redirection. But maybe one day a week, maybe 2 days a month, if you go first, maybe that'll help me like, okay, I've got this stuff done, and I'll still rest during the day, but I like that.
It's one of my practices that I found works for me. That
Yeah.
it's and I would be curious what our listeners, if they have a practice that is outside of
Mhm.
the norm, quote unquote, or if it's
Mhm.
something,
That
that
might be
you do
counterintuitive.
outside of your schedule or because
Mhm.
I mean I love routine and I also
Mhm.
love to disrupt my routine. So
Yeah.
that's what those mornings kind of do for me. It's
Yeah.
like not only do I disrupt my routine, but I also do it with a burst of activity. So,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
Oh, I have a question for you. So we talked about seasons changing and affecting how that changes how you might want to get up, right? You get up a little
Mhm.
bit later in the wintertime. Do you feel like it's easier to get up early after you have kids, or is it easier for you, or has it always been easy for you to get up early?
Well, I've always been an early morning person. Like
Okay.
I just do better when I get up before the sun. And it took me years to figure that out because I used to rebel against it. And then I
Hmm.
really started listening to my body rhythms. And I was like, oh, like I have a better day if I get up before the sun. Even
Yeah.
if I'm more tired, I might take a nap later. But I kind of listen to
Hmm.
my own biorhythms and are like, that works for me. Now, my sister never was an early bird. She always likes to sleep late. And
Mm.
so I think it's still harder for her, even with kiddos. Like when she was nursing, it wasn't hard for her. She was awake and had extra hormones in her body. But once she stopped nursing, she's back to wanting to sleep. I had the boys
Okay.
this morning for a couple hours so she could sleep in because she rarely gets to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they are early birds, and which is kind of funny.
Mm. I hear what you're saying on that. Okay. I was just wondering if like the children keeping you up late and waking up early, if that makes it more realistic for you to get up and then people just keep their schedule. Because again, as somebody who works in the hospitality industry, schedules all over the place. So if I work 70 hours a week, however much in one job, right? Then does it really matter if I'm up before the sun? This is without asking my body, right? Me asking my mind, does it matter if I'm up before the sun, if I still spend the same amount of time on the back end? If that's when I'm productive, that's when I'm productive. And I know people are different. I've just been trying to figure it out. Like as I shift into my new schedule that I'm about to make, should I try to wake up earlier or should I just instead be okay with staying up late?
Right. And I think when I teach in interplay, we talk about inner authority. We
Mm-hmm.
talk about well, we talk about body wisdom, body data, body knowledge, and body wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we talk about is body data. So what that is the bits and pieces of what is your body telling you. What so make a note of it. Kind of keep track. You're really great at journaling and keeping track. So just
Mm-hmm.
note, okay, today I mean it seems a little anal at first when you're doing it, right? But if you're truly trying to figure out what is your most productive best time, what I
Yeah.
work with my clients on is just, okay, jot down. I woke up, I felt. And it doesn't have to be long, like, and then kind of check on at the end of the day, was your day more productive? Did you have a slump? Did you take a nap? How did just kind of
Mm.
notes to yourself, right? And then so that's the data. That's the bits and pieces. Now, body knowledge is you're kind of gathering up the data points, the bits and pieces. And from that, you're starting to create a pattern. So, like, my body data was like, oh, I feel better when I wake up before the sun. Oh, that's not just a fluke. Oh, I'm more productive. Oh, I get done. Oh, my mood's better. Oh, data. So I was gathering all those data. And from that knowledge, I was like, okay, you need to get up before the sun if at all possible.
Mm.
And so that's the knowledge. And then the wisdom is, well, actually, let me back up. So the knowledge is, I do better when I get up before the sun. So the wisdom is in the action, like our wisdom in action, right? Whoop
I
whoop.
love.
Is that I'm going to get up before the sun if possible and greet the sun because I feel better when I do that. Now, is that true all the time? No, sometimes that changes, right? What
Yeah.
I love, we just had in the United States, we just had our fall back day. We're back to standard time,
Yeah.
and we always gain an hour during that time. And so that always makes me feel incredible because I'm up before the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was thinking about you the other day. I said, okay, it's going to start getting, the sun is going to come up earlier. What do I want to
Mhm.
do? And of course, it is dictated by my work schedule and stuff right now, too. If I'm at work till
Right.
whatever time, then I'll maneuver how I need to. But I've been
Right.
meaning to ask you that question.
Right. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is something besides sleep
Hmm.
that you want to gather like your inner authority on? That you want to gather as you look at towards the end of the year, as you look towards a new schedule?
Hmm.
What is something like and when I'm teaching classes, often I'm it's about sleep, it's
Hmm.
about rest, not just sleep. It's about joy.
Yeah.
And what do we want? What brings us joy? We kind of started the show with that, but
Yeah.
what are things we know? people, places, things that we know bring us joy
Mm,
and that we love to be around. Because actually, I'm just going to say this as we head into the holiday season. Like so many times we do things out of obligation or
right.
that we should or we think or what. But what I want to challenge our listeners to start thinking about, and we'll talk about it as we come even closer, is what truly brings you joy in this season.
Mhm.
Because I know, like for me right now, it's going outside and walking and seeing the fall foliage, right? And if I'm walking with a loved one and get to hold their hand, that's just even better, right?
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I love that. Playing in the park. So I was twirling
Mhm.
and flipping and spinning and skipping in Piedmont Park the other day. Um, And what else? Definitely family time. That's why we do all
Mhm.
of this stuff. I look forward
Mhm.
to, and I believe my purpose is included in helping women get wellness and all of these things too, right? But that's also part of me and my journey. So I love spending time with family. And that's what I've had the time to do this past week. Seeing my best friend, seeing my little brother, seeing my dad. And that brings me joy, making sure that I'm in all the different roles that I want to be in life. Again, we talked about it a
Right,
lot at the beginning of the podcast. Sheri Riley and exponential living. Stop living 100% of you stop spending 100% of your time on 10% of who you are. So having a balanced timeline is what I look forward to getting my inner authority on. Like, hey, I want 2 days off, and I still want to make X amount of money in the other days. That's what I look forward to gaining.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good time of year to check in with ourselves and find out, like, just what we were saying, what's working, what's not, what do we want
Yeah.
to change? What I mean, we may not want to change anything.
Hmm.
We may not have the ability to change things right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you're in a caregiver position and you are really in the thick of it, it
Mhm.
may be a challenge just to go outside for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But if it brings you joy, like let's figure out a way to make it happen if at all possible, even if
Yeah.
it's for a minute, right? Sometimes what brings me joy is just looking at the moon. And so
Mhm.
I'll just step out and look for a minute at the
Yeah.
moon and breathe, right?
Like she said last week, just closing your eyes for 5 minutes. If you can't close it for five, close it for a minute. Just
Hmm.
reset for a second.
We have a thing in Interplay called the one hand dance
Mm.
that our co-founder Phil Porter always talks about it being like a mini vacation. So what he does is he'll put on his favorite piece of music and he'll
Mhm.
close his eyes and he'll just let his hand move. So
Hmm.
he's engaging his body
Mhm.
and his senses with his music. And if he closes his eyes, it really feels like he's not with whatever he's working on or what's going on,
Mm.
and it really is like a mini vacation. So that's a resource and a tool that I use often for folks and with my
Okay.
clients and with myself
A
because
one-hand dance.
one hand dance. And if your whole body needs to get involved, that's okay too. Like,
Yeah.
because I have a playlist which it's time for me to refresh it, but I have a playlist that's my go-to. Like I have a
Mm.
playlist like if I need to shift my mood or if I need to get stuff done or I need to and she wasn't a guest on this season, but has been a guest on our show before, Melody
Right.
LeBaron. She's one of
Mhm.
our authors and speakers. She has a playlist called Music for Decluttering, which
Mm.
I love on that play. It starts out with a song called "Too Much Stuff," and it's
Mm.
hysterical, and,
Mm.
so it just makes me smile when I put it on, and, so I have different playlists for different things I like to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been thinking about the same thing. I have, like a workout playlist or what other playlist do I have? A tuning playlist in the morning to tune my energy since there's been so much stuff going on. It's okay. Let's get ready, and this is how we're gonna show up. But I like that. I've been thinking about playlists for the different 8 dimensions. Like I've been
Mm.
thinking about a money playlist, a money playlist to play when I'm doing like my transfers and stuff.
I love that. So
Yeah.
Karen Drucker, I'm going to say friend now
Hmm.
because we've done a couple of events together. She's a
Oh.
musician out of California, and she has a song called "Money Is Coming to Me Easily and Effortlessly." That's fun. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. Um, But I love it because it's like an affirmation and it's catchy. But what I really love is she collaborated with friends when she did the song. At the end of the song, you hear them giggling and laughing. And I love that so much because it
Mhm.
just reminds me, especially like around finances, how we can get into our stories in our head and we can get like, you know, we can get really focused on, or at least
Yeah,
I can. Maybe I should just
yes.
speak for myself,
Oh,
but like,
I'm with you. Yes, I'm with
and
you.
and to have joy and light. Like our guest last season was Davy Wetterer talking about divine feminine and
Yes.
bringing that into financial wellness. And how do we do that with prayers and intentions and manifesting? And, you know, I think I'm a huge resource gal and different tools. So the more we can have, I think the better. And for our listeners, like there's going to be some that you may be like, yeah, no, that one didn't work for me. Or yeah, that one worked really great. So if you have some that we recommend that you love, let us know, y'all. Let us know on social media or let us know by shooting us an email at women connected in wisdom podcast at gmail.com. Like reach out and be connected.
One of my other, favorite parts of last season was Jylan coming all the way from Alexandria, Egypt.
Right? Right?
Yes,
And reading the poem Woman, her poem Woman, that if
so
y'all
good.
did not catch that episode, please go back and listen to that episode. It was phenomenal. And
Yes.
so grateful to be connected across
Yeah.
continents now.
Really, really. And I've been thinking about it like, how would I have met all of the ladies that we've met? Not just in the 5 years that you and I have been doing Manifestation Mondays, but in the past 2.5 years, how would we have gone to all these different places had it not been for technology?
Right?
I know we talk about social media and the effect of it, but I'm really excited for Women Connected in Wisdom to be one of those positive spots for people.
Right? And speaking of that, y'all, if you haven't liked and subscribed, please do to on your favorite podcasting app. And
Yeah.
also, if you love our show, we'd appreciate a review because it
Mhm.
really does help us, and it's an easy way for us to support each other. And if
Yeah.
you have something like that that you want us to check out and support you, let us know because
Yeah.
that's what we're all about. We're about uplifting each other's voices. If you have an idea for the show that fits into the 8 dimensions of wellness, we'd love your input on that. Or if you have a great guest, have them go to womenconnectedinwisdom.com and
Yeah.
they can fill out and check us out. Yeah, because we have some really exciting stuff coming up and we'd love for you to be a part of it. Or if you have somebody that you know and love that you want to be a part of it, we'd love for them to come and join us.
Yeah. And I want to lift up something Felicia said too. She was talking at the conference about purpose and passion and how your purpose is going to make space for you, right? And how even for the book, she said, I remember who she said, "Oh no, I have an aunt that would be great for the book." And she was trying to give it to everybody, but herself be the person. So it might be you. You might be thinking about a list of people and it might be you. So, just remember to say yes for yourself too and hold the door open for wellness and everything that you have coming for you because I've been there too. Like, no, it's not for me. I have somebody great for you though when you are the great one.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Did we touch on all of our authors that we had last season? I want to make sure and call their names because it was such a good season.
All
And
of
I am
our
just so
guests.
grateful for them, all of our guests. See,
Yes,
I'm still in
yes.
the book mode with
Whew,
the
no,
authors.
definitely. I think we did. Yeah, we did
Great.
because we talked about the conference, and that's when all of our speakers came on. Coach Cole was on, Cynthia Phelps was on, Shannon Ivy was on. We talked about Davy Wetterer. We talked about Jylon. We had a great season last season.
Yep.
So things
Yep.
from all over the place, whether it's creative or again research back technology or you with yourself and the inner ally cards. It's beautiful how usually you would think about those separate, but they really do go together.
Yeah, they do. They
Mhm.
do. Yeah, it was a lot, and I'm grateful. I mean, one of the things that people often ask us, how do you do it every week? How do
Yeah.
you do a podcast? I mean, this is episode 92,
Woo, woo.
and right. And what I realized with our guest last week about sacred rest, like
Yeah.
it. it fills us up. Like, it's not draining. Like, I don't get
Mm-mm.
done and then be like, "Oh, I'm so exhausted."
I feel so good.
It's like, "Woo," right? It's like, "Oh, we just
Yes.
had that work session. Oh, we just got to do that." And that is what we're creating, y'all, with Women Connected in Wisdom, that we support each other, that we lift each other up, and that we help each other shine. Oh,
Yeah.
look, we were calling Jailan's name, and she
Jalan!
we were just calling your name, my friend, and you pop on. So
My
great to
favorite
see you.
ladies. I
And it
love
is
it.
late in Egypt. Holy cow.
Sending you love, right? But yes, and talking about sacred rest too, ladies, we do have some breaks coming up. So it's the holidays. We have some trips, some travels, some rest and rejoice. So please make sure when you're subscribed, when you're on the page, that you know the dates that we're going to be gone and resting for the end of the year, and we'll make sure that you are informed ahead of time so that you know what's coming up.
Right? Well, and then the other thing is, that's also a great time to go back and catch an episode that you may have missed. Like to
Yes.
go look at some of our titles and see, oh, I want to check out that one.
Mm,
Because I think there are three, maybe three people who've listened to all 92.
mm. Who's the third person? Okay, so Joe, we have
Joe,
Satima,
Sativa.
and
And then
who?
I figured between me and you, that was our third person. No?
No, no,
No?
I think I went back and listened to the social the week of the podcast. I have not listened to 92 episodes.
But you've been a part of them. You've been
Right,
here.
right, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
been here
maybe we should say
definitely.
two people.
Yeah, we'll say 2. I'm not even gonna no, not even gonna flex on the podcast, okay?
That's awesome.
Ooh, okay. And shout out to that comment, Jalan. I see you said women connected in wisdom forever. I love
Mhm,
that because I used to say Wakanda forever, but now we can say our thing forever, right? Because
mhm,
yeah, that's what we're working for, and that's also why we have this infinity symbol in the logo. If you guys have not noticed that, the infinity symbol below the W, that's what
mhm.
it's there for. So glad you caught that, Jalan. My wisdom in action, Christine, this week is. Ooh, this is a great question. I think I would like some. I'm just gonna go hashtag keep going.
Okay. Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
going.
All right,
Yeah.
listeners, I see a couple of y'all out there. So, what would be your wisdom in action this week?
Mm.
I think my wisdom in action this week is going to be affirm what's working.
Ooh.
So, I want to look at what's really working and affirm what's working, and then probably a second one, a follow up one, hashtag let go of what's not.
So we've been letting go of some stuff. We were talking
Right?
about Melody LeBaron on the conference. I was like, I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need this. This is attached to old story. Gotta go. And we've been getting rid of stuff. So
Good
whether
job.
it's physical or
I
not,
don't
yeah. Thank
know
you.
if I told you or confessed what
What?
happened after the conference.
What
I had
happened?
so much energy from the conference and how wonderful it was. I was supposed to be resting the day after, and I spent like 8 hours decluttering and
Mm,
organizing
you did
because
not
I was
tell me
so
that.
I was so inspired by Melody LeBaron's talk, and I was looking for something that I needed, and I just like got on a roll and just went for it. And I was like,
Mm,
okay, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's what happened.
mhm.
So,
I hear you.
like,
You went on a decluttering binge. I went on a work
right,
binge. We're just getting stuff done, right?
right,
No, but hey, if that's how you felt and you went with it, it sounds like some joy was sparked.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and found some things that I'd been looking for. So that's always joyful, right? I love it.
Yes. Yes. Well, again, 92 episodes, 10 seasons, Christine. That means by is it next season that we're celebrating the 100th episode? We got
Yes,
2-year anniversary
yes.
coming up. We have a lot of things coming for you ladies. So stay tuned. Christine, thank you so much for everything you do, have done to be a connector. You've always been a connector, but I'm excited to be here with you.
Grateful for you, my friend. So grateful for you, for your work in the world, for our collaboration and our connection, for
Yeah.
all the amazing women we have met and are still to
Mhm.
meet. And
Yes.
yeah, I am
Shout
just
out to the
grateful to be
ladies.
connected,
Yes,
right?
super shout out to the ladies. Okay, ladies, so we will be back. Season 11, episode 93. Next week, live at 5. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.